Welcome to the Infinite Evolution Podcast, where you'll receive keys and codes to help you unlock your next level of joy, radiance, health, wealth, intuition, embodiment, and soul purpose. This is a space for lightworkers, healers, spiritual entrepreneurs, and anyone who wants to share their soul gifts with the world. We'll be exploring personal, spiritual, and professional growth and ascension through both the esoteric and magical and the tangible and practical. I'm Casey Aileen Knight, coach, mentor, as well as divine channel and soul gift activator. I founded the Luminous Evolution brand to help you elevate your business and beingness and light up the world. So glad you're here. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful ones. Welcome to a conversation that I am so excited and delighted to continue. I have Vanessa Bighinatti here with me. She's a health and spiritual coach, and I was recently on her podcast, and we could have talked forever. It was so much fun. And I really wanted to invite Vanessa on and actually really highlight her story, because we talk about infinite evolution and spirituality and entrepreneurship and all of these things, but we have not yet dove into the fact that an illness, a disability, things that basically are going seemingly terribly wrong, making life so hard, can actually be the catalyst for massive growth and evolution. And I'm excited to share with you that you are the medicine that you need. This is what Vanessa said as she came on, and she is celebrating 7 years of healing from her chronic illness. So I am so delighted. Let me tell you a little bit about her before we dive in. She's now a dedicated NLP and hypnotherapy practitioner, as well as an EFT, which is emotional freedom technique practitioner. She's a certified health coach, a Reiki practitioner, so all of the energy magic. And she is a compassionate self-healing guide. She empowers others to reclaim their health and happiness through nervous system regulation, which we know is the key. We always start there. Holistic lifestyle practices and transformational mindset work. And her mission is to help you create a life that feels deeply aligned and joyful. So she herself struggled for years battling debilitating chronic illness, which left her with over 50 life-altering symptoms. And she was actually reliant on a cane by the age of 24. And I don't know about you, but I know that would have been a crushing blow to me when I was in my mid-20s, feeling like, you're at that peak, that prime in terms of vitality. And I can't even imagine what that would feel like. But Vanessa refused to accept a future defined by pain and limitations. So she turned her greatest struggle into her life purpose. She defied the odds, healing herself from what doctors once deemed absolutely impossible. And now she is this living testimony to the power that others have to do the same. So, oh my gosh, I'm full of goosebumps. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for such a warm introduction. I'm so excited to be here and chatting with you again. I had so much fun last time we chatted, so I can't wait to see what comes through today.
Me too. And I really do want people who are listening who might be undergoing some kind of really physical struggle to hear your story and to know that it doesn't mean that that's there forever. Because I know, and I have so many friends who have been through absolutely just, yeah, debilitating illnesses, diseases. And at that time, the stuff that I talk about now, the spiritual fulfillment, the bliss, the self-actualization, the creation, the infinite evolution, that is like the least of your concerns when you are in that state where you don't have access to any of that. And I know for some of my friends and family, it's actually pissed them off that I am over here in my spiritual bliss is possible bubble. And so I'd just love to dive into this with you, how you made it from where you were to where you are today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I can totally resonate with what you said. Like where I'm at right now, the version of myself when I was unwell or sick would never have believed it. Like the person I am, like so embodied in my truth, living in integrity with my soul, just absolutely thriving. Like I would never have dreamed that this is where I would be 7 years ago, even 10 years ago when I first started my illness. So in that time frame, I was in survival mode. And so many people who are going through chronic illness are just stuck in survival. And you know what? It's okay because you literally are trying to survive and trying to heal yourself. And that's about all the capacity you have. So when people were like, "Oh, just trust your intuition and you'll get there," and all that stuff, I honestly couldn't believe it because I was like, I can't even tap into this right now because I'm just stuck in this survival state. But when I look back to what I went through, I can see now clearly that that needed to happen in order for me to be this person I am today. And while those were the hardest 5 years, 4 years of my life, it was absolutely necessary to be this version of myself. And now I can see and look back on that with gratitude, even though it was so challenging. And a little bit about my story was, throughout my childhood, I was on and off very sick. I was always catching things. I had ADHD. I was diagnosed with insomnia. I had unexplainable joint pain for like a 14-year-old. And then in college, I ended up having more symptoms, panic attacks, dizziness, really bad heart palpitations. And then after college, I developed more symptoms to the point where it became debilitating and something that I couldn't ignore anymore. And I was like, okay, something is happening here and I need to address it. And that was when I started having over 50 symptoms. Most of them were neurological, some of them were gut symptoms. I was walking with a cane. My pain levels were off the charts. I was having really bad heart symptoms like palpitations, irregular heartbeats, high heart rate, low blood pressure. So there was like chances that I could pass out, so I had numbness over my whole body. My motor functions weren't always working. Everything I ate was causing me so much pain. So it was just this ultimate rock bottom that most people can't even fathom unless they have dealt with any kind of illness or symptoms themselves. And, while I was in it, it was hard to see clearly and trust the process. Of course, because I was in survival mode, right? I was literally just spending every day trying to get myself to a place of believing that I would be healed or could heal. Many of my doctors at the time had said that this was going to be irreversible, that I was going to have to maintain this for life, and that essentially felt like a life sentence, right? And that was something that I wasn't willing to accept, being the stubborn person I am. So luckily for that, I refused to accept that. And I made it my personal goal to become symptom free and to reverse the things they said that were impossible, because I believed that it was my birthright to be healthy. And I believed that there was a bigger purpose to all of this. I I always was a pretty spiritual person. And I think that going through my health transformation really solidified that faith and that trust in this higher power. Um, so luckily, because I didn't accept that as my reality, I worked really, really hard to make a change, make a shift, make my health possible again. So over a 4-year time span, I implemented so many tools, diets, modalities for my healing that eventually got me to being symptom free. And at the time right now, this is 7 years I've been healthy, and that's thank you for celebrating that, is a big deal, right? Like 7 years I've been healthy, 7 years I've been thriving, and 7 years I've been becoming the person that I've been destined to be and the person that I've always wanted to become. And I'm just so grateful for where I'm at now, because I just don't think I would be this person if I didn't go through that trajectory and that extremely challenging time in my life.
Oh my goodness. I personally have not been through health challenges that deep. But I do have some people very close to me who have. And I know that when you are in that state, it is truly in survival mode, you don't have access to the things we have access to in health, right? Talk about nervous system, that survival mode, you don't have access to your intuition, to that higher level analysis and reasoning, or to your creativity, or to your, highest level of connecting with your highest self and that truth and everything like that. So, not to mention, your digestion and your immune system and all of those physical things are really shut down. So you work with the nervous system. Was that where you started with your healing, or what got you the most traction? I'm curious when you were beginning.
Yeah, I would say nervous system regulation was really big in my healing, but it was not something I knew of right away. And honestly, this wasn't even a term that people used then.
Yeah.
This whole journey started over 10 years ago now. And, things like the words biohacking and nervous system regulation were just not even being used yet, which I think is so interesting. But, I really spent the first 8 to 10 months of my journey in a really, really dark place. And it was pretty much just by blind faith alone that was getting me through. That was when I started with nutrition. I started on different treatments for what I was going through. And it was very challenging. And there was not much intuition that I could connect to, right? Because I was in that survival mode. And I just remember two things that really stuck out to me. One is that even though I couldn't tap into my intuition, I was still being guided and protected. And I could very much see that because I was being guided to every healer, every modality, every doctor that I needed to go to in order to heal. Like I specifically remember not having luck with one doctor, and like by absolute miracle I was able to get into a different doctor the next week who was already booked out for a year. There was like a cancellation last minute that I was able to get in, and that doctor ended up pretty much saving my life because I honestly didn't know if I was going to survive the treatment I was on before. So I can clearly see that there was divine intervention along that way. And that was really helpful to know that I was being protected by some other, you know, source. And then that was when I got to the point where I was just at such a rock bottom that I was like, I need to make a shift here. And I know life is so hard, but I can either play victim to this right now or just do the best I can and make do what the cards I'm dealt right now, because there's nothing that's going to change where I'm at. And what was also really important to me was realizing that everything I was doing was an investment in the future version of myself, not the version of myself right now. Because yet, of course, things that was eating was affecting my symptoms, but at the end of the day, the treatment was helping me heal in a year from now or 6 months from now. It wasn't in that moment. So it was like, how can I, in this moment, just open up and be more grateful and not play the victim? Because at the end of the day, in months from now, that's not going to help me. And that's when I really shifted to start using gratitude. So I started trying to bring more joy into my life. That was really important. Because I think when people go through chronic illness, we get so sucked into it. And, especially if you're really sick, it becomes a full-time job to take care of yourself, the supplements, the doctor's appointments, the treatments, the foods, and, it just becomes all consuming. And I was like, I need to bring some joy into my life. So bringing in joy, I started doing things that were creative. And by doing these little things that I didn't even realize were actually nervous system regulation tools, I was helping myself ground a bit more and get out of survival mode. So in those moments, right? So it's like I used to have trouble opening and closing my hands sometimes because of the neurological symptoms. And my way of coping with that was I would actually start coloring in this book because it would help that symptom subside and me have grip strength again. But then by doing that, I was regulating my nervous system because I was like, this was bringing me joy. It was grounding for me. It felt really safe to color. It helped me get out of the symptom I was dealing with. And it just started taking form and shape until a few years in. That's when I was able to learn more about how to cope with my anxiety on a more real level. So I was doing these things a bit unconsciously. Like I didn't realize I was regulating my nervous system when I was. And then that's when I learned about emotional freedom technique and somatic practices and hypnotherapy. And I was doing things like cranial sacral work and Reiki. And once I started bringing those in, which was about a year into my illness, I noticed much bigger shifts. I noticed that I just had the capacity to handle what I was going through more. And don't get me wrong, there were still really challenging moments, panic attacks, and times where I was just like, this is not working, I'm not getting better. But I started having more tools to actually cope with what I was going through. And then essentially was expanding my capacity to handle my healing.
Mhm.
And that was what made a really, really big shift. About the year mark is when I noticed things were really taking a turn for the positive.
Mm. That piece of actually getting some momentum is so pivotal because when you have no momentum, when you're in that still point of the dark night of the soul and of everything, any little thing that you do takes so much effort. So I'm curious if when you're working with clients or what advice you might have to somebody who is at that point where they feel like they don't have traction, they don't have momentum, they are just in it. What would you share with them?
Yeah. I know that that point is so tough, right? It's hard to be in the depths of it with no answers and no light at the end of that tunnel. And something for me that I really learned is sometimes the answer is to wait. And I know that can be really uncomfortable to be in that moment of like, I'm sick, I'm unwell, but I'm doing enough right now. It's, a big thing is like less is more for me. I think when I was healing, I was trying to do all these modalities, all these tools, and I was doing too much, right? I had like 10 things
Mhm.
plus the treatment, plus the supplements, plus all that. I'm like, how can I really do this? I'm not making the progress I want. And when I did less, I was able to move forward more quickly. So something I say with my clients is like less is more. Can you trust the unknown? Because this is actually the land of infinite possibilities, right? And if you said that to me so long ago, that would be so hard to hear, right? Because I'm like, I'm so in it. I'm so fearful of the unknown. But now, as someone on the other side of it, I can say, yeah, but can you choose faith over that fear? Because there's actually so many possibilities that you could go down because you're not already connected to one, right? And I'm like, you could have gone this route, you could have gone that way, you could have gone that way. And I believe there's so many ways to heal, right? There's not one size fits all when it comes to healing. So it was just about me finding the path that was right for me. So if I just trusted in the infinite possibilities and that I was being guided to exactly what I needed, I would have just surrendered more. I think the act of surrendering is so important when we're in the thick of it. And I think the biggest thing that I say is, can you just focus on regulating your nervous system so you can trust yourself, so you can trust where you're meant to go? Because when you're in a more regulated state and you're out of that survival, you can trust in the infinite unknown, and you can trust in the waiting process of the unfolding of your healing, whether it's chronic illness, whether it's just other emotional things you're going through, or your healing in general, right? It's so when we can bring in that sense of groundedness and that nervous system regulation, I think we can just move through it so much more with ease and grace and surrender.
Absolutely. And as you were describing it at first, because I'm so much more familiar with the Dark Night of the Soul without the health component, just because I work mostly with the spiritual expansion piece, it was sounding exactly like that need to surrender that goes so the layer of difficulty when you have a physical illness on top of that because you are in survival mode and the ego is trying to keep you alive. That's its job. So if you surrender into the unknown, it feels like it's going to die. Right?
Yes.
That level of faith and trust to make that leap over, that is mastery level stuff to be able to surrender when it literally feels like your life is on the line because it might be if the healing doesn't happen. So I have so much respect for people who walked into this life with that on their like docket to explore and expand through. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, what you're saying really resonates, right? It's like because we actually may physically go through a death, right? We may lose our life to this. Like that was a very real thought for me when I was at least in the first year of healing. I really didn't know if I was surviving this. And that brings up so much fear. And it brings up so much, right? You're literally faced with the fact that like this might be it for you. And you have to face so many tough emotions, just like in your dark night of the soul. I mean, I personally believe chronic illness is your dark night of the soul because it's like you're facing things that most people don't necessarily have to face when you're like, oh, am I surviving this or am I actually like is this it? And I think the level of surrender is so deep and profound when you actually have to be like, yeah, I might not make it out of this. And just surrendering and being like, but that's okay. And I can make peace with this um, is very real. It's very big. And I think the level of surrender you learn going through chronic illness is so, so deep. Like the level of surrender I have now for life is the capacity that I have for that is huge. And I don't think I would have had that if I didn't face those times of being like, I didn't know if I was surviving. Right. So, yeah, it is one of the hardest journeys, I think, through the dark night of the soul, but one of the deepest and most profound for sure.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like this. When you're describing it, I almost felt that shift, like that release of the surrender and then the acceptance, then the peace coming
Mm-hmm.
after that just creates this spaciousness where the ego is not trying to control everything. You're like, whatever happens, happens, and we'll navigate it from that place of allowing. And then I know for myself and my clients, again, without the health layers, once we get to that place of allowing, then there's room for the divine to flow and to guide us at an even more tangible level. So that sounds like what happened in your journey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that was really big that a lot of people struggle with post chronic illness is feeling safe in their body again, right? Because it's like we physically went through a point in our lives that we didn't feel safe in our body. And that's something that I don't think enough people talk about this post chronic illness because when you are going through your rebirth and nervous system regulation, if you ever didn't feel safe in your body, you have to recreate that safety there in order to tap into your higher self and your intuition because it's coming from your body, right? And I think something not only do we need to retrain that, but we also need to remember like our bodies are capable of healing. Our healing is possible. Like we can physically heal our vessels. I mean, so many people have come back from near death experiences. I've come back from a 4-year health journey. So it's like if that can happen, if we believe that we can heal and we put in the effort to do it, it's like miracles can happen. And then we have to just remember like I am still safe in my body post this experience as well. And that was something I really had to work hard on retraining. And it took a long time. And nervous system regulation and somatics, EFT especially, were the key to feeling safe in my body again. And once I was able to feel safe in my body, I'm able to now tap into my intuition and connect with the other side so much more than I was before because I can feel connected to myself again.
I love that. And for people who may have heard it more colloquially known as tapping, this
Mm,
is that somatic practice, that emotional freedom technique that has all of this scientific evidence of how it also restructures the nervous system, but also the brain and the synapses, which
yeah.
is just so neat. And I know you have actually trained and studied in this now, and you had mentioned that you have a free masterclass that you have available. So if people are curious, I'm going to leave the link below in the show notes so that you can actually try it out because it's one thing to be like, this thing helped me, but to actually experience it. But would you like to describe it for people? Because it's more than just tapping places on your body.
Yeah, honestly, tapping has been the most profound tool in my healing from like a somatic nervous system regulation standpoint. And I actually still use it to this day for calling in what I want. So it's like there's so many ways we can use this tool, and it's so beautiful. So or EFT is essentially using different tapping acupressure points on the body, and we tap those, and the points that we end up tapping help the entire body come back to a state of relaxation or rest and digest. So it uses the acupressure points that literally trigger the entire body to come back to that sense of safety. And what we do when we do tapping is we actually have different mantras and phrases that we use to actually help rewire the subconscious mind at the same time. So we rewire the subconscious mind with an emotional charge, right? It's just a thought we repeat over and over again with an emotional charge. So when we do tapping, we're coming back into the state of peace and relaxation and safety, and we're rewiring and processing what we've been feeling. So essentially you start with the negative and what you're feeling, right? So I'm feeling a lot of fear come up that I may never heal. And I'm really scared. I don't feel safe in my body. And you essentially walk yourself through that, processing everything that's coming up. Because when we can process it, we can move through it, right? But you're doing the tapping that's helping your body relax, even though you're bringing up some triggering topics. And then you move into the positive where we actually rewire the subconscious mind, right? So you move through that more challenging fear, and then you say, but I know my truth is I can heal. I know my body's capable of healing. My body is a miracle. Of course it can heal. I'm doing everything I need to support my body's healing. It is capable of doing it on its own, and I'm just providing more and more tools that it needs because I'm the medicine and I know what I need to do, and I'm being guided to everything I need in order to heal. And as you continue to rewire that subconscious mind, you can train your nervous system to feel safe in your body again. You can train yourself to have that capacity to expand your intuition and trust yourself again and recreate that safety and believe that your healing is possible because it is possible. And we've going through chronic illness, we've learned that it's not. So when we retrain it, then we could start moving through things so much easier. And tapping is such a great tool. It had helped me cope with the anxiety of what I was going through, to then rewiring limiting beliefs that I had, which were not believing I could heal, not feeling safe in my body. To then, once I felt safe in my body, I was like, okay, I'm going to use this tool now to overcome even more things that are holding me back, which ended up being limiting beliefs around my self-worth and my confidence and other emotions that were coming through, to the point where then now I've actually used it as more of like a moving mantra and prayer through life of like, okay, I'm calling in ease and grace through this process, and I'm building a new life here in my new town, and I know that everything's going to work out, and I'm calling in X, Y, and Z. And it just gets to the point where I use it to even bring in my manifestations and my desires because I've seen how powerful this tool is. Like I can't say enough about it. It's like honestly changed my life.
I love that. And so now this is something that you deeply embodied in the work and the transformation get to share with the world, with your clients, but also with anybody that's listening because they can take this masterclass and you'll walk them through the process, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So the masterclass is great. The first chunk of the masterclass is all about nervous system regulation. So it'll teach you a little bit more about that. And then it will actually teach you how to use EFT or tapping for yourself. So there's a guided practice and then all about how to actually do it, going over the points, different phrases and mantras that you can use to help rewire the subconscious mind. And then you can learn how to apply it to anything that you actually are feeling holding you back or feeling like you need to process. So it's such a invaluable tool. Like you can literally use tapping for anything. And at this point, I can just tap on my collarbone and my nervous system regulates because I've trained my body to see the benefits and the safety that I need through this tool. Like it's expanded my window of tolerance and my capacity so greatly that I actually use it to train my nervous system to hold capacity for more that I haven't even called in yet. Because I'm just training my nervous system to accept and receive the new things that are going to come in. And yeah, like I said, sometimes I'll be overstimulated and I'll just tap on my collarbone and my nervous system can calm right down. I can be like, oh gosh, I'm feeling overstimulated. Let me just tap this out really quick. It's like you can use it for 2 minutes, you could do it for an hour. It really just depends on what you need, but it's such an incredible tool.
Mm, I love that. And I think that every practitioner needs to have, and everybody on a journey of healing and spiritual expansion needs to have something that works with both the physical body and the subconscious mind and the nervous system. And it's just so helpful to have tools like that. And tapping's not the only one. My practice includes belief repatterning, which is
Mhm.
very similar. It's using words to rewire the synapses from that. And it does work with the subconscious and the superconscious and the nervous system. And there's other things too. But I just absolutely adore how in this day and age, we have tools that can help people move energy so quickly. Like we have the technologies, which I hope brings people hope and peace if they are sitting in this place. Just to hear a story like yours of like, hey, this is possible, because
Mhm.
I think without hearing that it is, people can get looped into that identification that you were talking about before with chronic illness, with their pain. And I'd love just to talk about that identity shift, because I'm sure you also help your clients with this through tapping and hypnosis, to actually have to rewire your identity from being someone who is sick into someone who is healing or who is now healed. What's that journey
Mhm.
like for you?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really powerful one, and something I do work with my clients on because, when we're in it, we really resonate with the labels that we're given. We really resonate with like being sick, right? And I'm a huge believer in the power of the mind. So if we keep telling ourselves like these are the labels I have, these are the diagnoses I have, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, right? We're hearing that over and over again. And something that I did at least a year and a half in, I stopped using the word sick. I removed it from my vocabulary and I said, I'm unwell instead. It's still not an amazing word, but it has a little bit of a lighter tone than I'm sick. I was saying, I'm unwell. I'm not my best self right now. I'm working on my healing. And I just realized the power of the words and I changed them because I didn't want to identify as a sick person anymore. And I also, in the moment when I had originally gotten my diagnoses, I was labeled with a few different things, including chronic neurological Lyme, POTS, anxiety, SIBO, just to name a few. And in that moment, it was so validating that someone saw me. I was like, oh my goodness, finally, someone is seeing that something is wrong. And then after a little bit of time, I realized these labels do nothing but keep me believing that I am sick and that I'm not a healthy person. And what if it is just about going from a state of dis-ease back to a state of ease in the body? What if the label doesn't actually matter? It's just a fact that, like, I'm not in homeostasis right now. I'm not in a state of ease and I'm not in a state of health that I want to be in. So I just need to take the steps to bring myself back to that state of ease in my body. And I really resonated with letting that go. And it got to the point where also then when I healed, so I say I've been healed for I don't say remission because remission implies that I will go back to that state. And
Mhm.
I refuse to believe that because I continuously work on my health every single day and I identify as someone who's healthy now. So I don't use the word remission. I call it my health anniversary, to be honest. But, I celebrate this being healthy again because this is the moment when I dropped all the labels. I refuse to identify as someone who was ever sick or was chronically ill because really I was just coming back to a state of ease in the body. And I don't really associate with the labels and diagnoses I was given and all of that. And it was an identity shift for sure. And it was, challenging to let that go because I clung to that. I'm like, yes, there's been something wrong with me to the point of like, I'm like, wow, this wasn't serving me. And this is no longer serving me because I am working on my healing and I am a healthy person. And it's just about coming back to that state. So yeah, I have clients that find it very hard to even use the words I'm healing or I believe I can be healthy. And we have to really retrain that and reprogram that into the subconscious mind and into the body to believe that. And a lot of it has to do with also not feeling safe in their body anymore. So retraining that safety of like, yeah, you can be a healthy person. Life gets to be okay. You can trust your body again. Your body can heal. So it is a little bit of a journey, but rewiring definitely is a really big one, a tool that we use to letting those labels go for sure.
Hmm. All of the words that we speak have these frequencies that our cells are experiencing. So
Yeah.
I am a very big proponent of using words intentionally and remembering their magic and their power, right? We're always casting these intentions and spells that we don't necessarily consciously realize we are doing until we bring our conscious awareness to it.
Yeah.
So it is such a profound gift to shine that light of awareness for people. And I am curious, do you just blend together all of your different modalities, tapping, hypnosis, energy work, or do you have a protocol that you bring people through?
Mm. Yeah, so I would say right now EFT is pretty much my, or tapping is pretty much my main modality. I really work with clients on emotional guidance through their journey. I work with people mostly who have had chronic illness, whether they're on their tail end and creating safety back into their body, or they are healed from chronic illness and creating that safety so that they can step into the person they're meant to be and thrive and come out on that other side. So I would say we do a lot of emotional guidance and then a lot of EFT and tapping. That's the main thing. Of course, I bring in that energy work and the hypnotherapy if that feels really good and nourishing for them. But mostly EFT has become my tool of choice.
Because it's so powerful and effective. That's
Yes.
amazing. I love that. And you do take clients privately, but you mentioned your practice is currently full. So that, first off, is so exciting. I am thrilled when I hear entrepreneurs who are making this difference in the world really being in that space where they're being of service. And then they're like, oh, actually, I can't help everybody in a one-on-one way because there is only so much time. So you've expanded
Yeah.
into more group offerings and things like that. And I'm curious to bridge the conversation into the concept of community in the healing sphere. How has that been for you to go from working in this one-on-one way to creating opportunities for people in more group scenarios? Has the community part been supportive in and of itself?
Yeah, yeah. And I absolutely, community is such a big word for me, and it's something that's so important to me. And, I love taking private clients, but at that same time, it was like there was only one person at a time I could help, right? And this community aspect, these events have been so nourishing because so many people can feel the magic in tapping in those events, right? And can learn such a beautiful tool while coming together and collectively being like, oh, yeah, we're all dealing with different challenges and this tool could help us move through it. So it has been such a beautiful experience stepping more into the community and doing more events and stepping into that bit more of like a teacher and guider perspective rather than just from a one-on-one private coaching container. It's been really beautiful.
I love that. And I think that there's also this extra power, this extra oomph that's added when more people are doing the work together. Because it really is, it's energy work, it's reprogramming, I would call it frequency shifting magic, right? When we're doing
Yeah.
this stuff, we're playing with all of that. And I know when you have a great facilitator, and I've never been in your classes, but I know from speaking with you and from the energy you hold, you'd be a fabulous facilitator of this. When we have a guide like you that can manage the safety of the group and create that, then it just amplifies everything for people. So I'm just really encouraging anybody who is in that space where they're ready to bring on this identity of being healed and healthy and whole and ready for more to check out your work because I could just feel the power behind it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's so important to remember like this isn't a life sentence if you're dealing with illness, if you're dealing with any kind of symptoms, and if you can take a zoom out lens and say, this is happening for my growth and expansion, or how can I use this for my growth and expansion? Because I don't believe that anybody should go through illness, but how can I use this for my growth and expansion? And when I come out on this other side, be the person that I'm meant to be. And seeing it from that lens, it takes such a different meaning. It can be such a powerful and drastic rebirth of the self in a very positive way if you let it and you come out of that, why is this happening to me, and into that, why is this happening for me mindset.
I'm just breathing that in because that's wit is the most empowering thing. I think it actually moves us out of that state of feeling powerless as a victim into being empowered conscious creators of our reality. And the work that I do is often with healers and people who have already done that big healing part of their journey. And we go to the next level of conscious creation and how good can it get? But one of the things that I always say is that healing is just the beginning. It's not the whole point. I
Yeah.
love that you bridge that for people and you're bringing them across the bridge so that they can do the things that their soul actually is here for. So I'm going to say thank you so much for being with me here. I want everybody to check out your work and take the free masterclass. And I am just so grateful to have had this time with you today. Thank you so very much. You're doing amazing work in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe and share this out to people that need to hear it. Tag us on social media. You can find us at The Luminous Evolution on Instagram. And keep the conversation going by joining my free sacred community, Luminous Evolution, on Facebook, and get a taste of my favorite tools and techniques inside my free Frequency Upgrade Academy. You can also join me inside my membership, mastermind, certification programs, or private coaching to be deeply supported on your evolutionary journey. Make sure to check out the links in the show notes, and cheers to your infinite, luminous evolution.